I have known Jimmy. I think I met him first probably in 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. And always looked up to the guy. I didn't know much about him, mainly just followed him on social media. It's not like we were close buddies or anything. I just knew of him through other friends at Vivint and followed his journey and knew he was successful. And he was always so engaging and so kind every time I met him. Mm-hmm. And he probably wouldn't have known me from Adam, but I knew him.
Sure.
And I think that goes for a lot of people. Like they know Jimmy, but he doesn't necessarily know them.
Sure.
And I think that's one of the things, him teaching us, like, hey, anytime you see someone again, reintroduce yourself because not everyone's going to remember you. And not everybody's going to remember me. Not everyone's going to remember you.
Sure.
So just reintroducing yourself. Anyway, I had gone to his July 4th event. He always does this big, massive firework show out in a vineyard up until this last year. Anyway, a year and a half ago, I went to this 4th of July party that he put on. And I started talking to Big Jake. Do you know Big Jake Lords?
Yeah.
Okay. And just asking about, WAT, because I had seen all of these different events and all the fun things these guys were doing. And I knew I wanted something more. I had a lot of friends. It's not like I needed a group of guys because I didn't have any friends. I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of people that I love and care about, a lot of people that love and care about me. That wasn't really my motivation, but I just wanted more.
Sure.
And I started seeing the things that these guys were doing. And I was like, I want to be a part of that, even from his very first group. And then his second group I wanted to join. And my wife that I was married to at the time, we've since been divorced, but she didn't want me to do it. And I think she was afraid of me growing and moving. And it would have happened and eventually did happen. But I think she was afraid of me growing and growing out of our relationship. And so I was not allowed to join. Anyway, fast forward a couple of years, I was divorced. And then I go to this 4th of July event talking to Jake. And Jake tells me this is the best thing that he's ever done for his life. And just got dialed in on so many different areas. And so I went to Jimmy and I was like, hey, man, I'm interested in joining the group. I wanted to in group 2, but I want to join. He's like, let's jump on a call tomorrow. I said, okay. So the next day we jump on a call and he's like, I don't have any groups that are open right now. Group 5 started 2 months ago, but we're 2 weeks away from the very first Ludus. So I can throw you in this group and you can jump in with these guys that have already started. And I said, sold, I'm in.
Yeah.
So I jumped in and went to our first Ludus down in Moab. And at this time in my life, I was in a pretty good place. For a long time, my health was out of whack. But at this point, I had dropped, 50 or 60 pounds. I was happy. I was back out, in the dating world. And things were going well. But I just, like I said, I wanted more. Mm-hmm. And then at that Ludus, it was nerve-wracking being around all these, guys you've never met before. And then I see my buddy Nick Johnson, who I've known since high school. So he was in the group and opened up the comfort level a little bit. Nick and I had worked together at a company right after I came home from my mission. I worked for him. He recruited me over to come work for him back in 2009, 2010, somewhere around there. So having someone that you look up to, love, and trust that's in this group already, I'm like, okay, I'm in the right place. And then met some of the most amazing men who are some of my best friends to this day, and will remain that way forever. And I jumped in with both feet and decided that I was going to do the deal and really make some changes and heal some wounds and dive deep into what made Jared. And I had done a lot of work. I've done a lot of therapy due to some mental health struggles that I have gone throughout my life. But my mental health struggles really skyrocketed back in 2013. Interestingly enough, it was down in Moab. I was there for Jeep Safari weekend, and on the way home from Moab, a friend of mine was driving my car. I was asleep, had the seats laid down in the back of my SUV, and he got in an accident and ran into the back of a 15-passenger van that was parked on the side of the road. And the only thing that kept me from going through the windshield was my front passenger seat, which was smashed up into the windshield. From that accident, I got a TBI, a traumatic brain injury. And that's really where my depression just kicked off. And I didn't even know until years later that depression can be exacerbated by a TBI tenfold. And I mean, I think everybody goes through moments in life where you have, depression and things like that, but then you get a TBI on top of that, and it set me spiraling. And at the time I was drinking and doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. And I used drinking and drugs to cope with my depression, to escape the feelings, to escape life. And struggled with that for years. And 2014, I was in such a dark place. I was 30 years old. I had finally got engaged and thought, living this in this culture and raised LDS, going on a mission, coming home, feeling lost, not knowing really where I fit in this world. And then, start drinking and knowing I don't fit in this bubble anymore. Now dealing with these depression issues, and I just hit the end of my rope, and I didn't know where to turn. And my pride and my ego kept me from being able to reach out and ask for help. So I decided that the right thing to do was to take my life. So I posted a suicide note on Facebook, turned off my phone, and then drove up into the mountains of Park City and found a place that I was going to die. And it was a beautiful place up behind Jeremy Ranch Golf Course, an awful dirt rutted road that leads from Jeremy Ranch to East Canyon. And, pioneers had trekked this way, and the Donner Party had trekked this way. So there's some history along this road. And I used to ride my bike and carry a water bottle for my dad while he ran this road when I was a kid, when we lived up there. So there was some significance behind it I didn't even realize when I chose that spot. Anyway, it's a grove of trees, a beautiful area. And I walked down the hill. I took a couple of blankets out of my car, laid one out, and then looked up at the sky and said, God, out loud, God, if you exist and you want me here, prove it. And then I began slicing up my arms. And I laid down and I put the blanket over me, and it's, July 7th. So middle of summer, hotter than hell outside. And I put a blanket over me because I was afraid that there might be a kid to, come upon me, and I didn't want them to see a bloody mess. So put this blanket over me and I laid down and I passed out. And then I woke up and realized I was still alive. And again, said out loud, motherfucker, I'm alive. And grabbed the knife and started cutting up my arm some more, laid down and passed out. Then next thing I know, I'm hearing this horn honk, beep, 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 hearing some voices. Next thing I know, people start questioning me. Who's down there? Who's down there? It's like, I am. This is Summit County Sheriff's. Come out with your hands up. And I was like, I can't. They're like, why? I said, I'm bleeding. Like, why? I cut myself. Why the fuck did you do that? Anyway, one guy comes from this direction, another guy comes from this direction, and realized that I'm in dire need of help. And took off my shoelaces, took off my belt, started tying tourniquets, start questioning me, asking me, where I grew up. And turns out we know some of the same people. And I was like, are you really sheriffs? He's like, no, but I'm an Army Ranger. And I know you don't go into the woods blind because someone says help. I was like, I didn't say help. He's like, somebody did. To this day, I don't recall saying help, but that's what they heard. And they came down and they said they heard moaning. And at first thought somebody was down there getting freaky. And so that's why they're kind of like, what's going on? And found me, get on the phone with 911. They're going to send out a helicopter to try and find us. He's like, look, I can get them to you guys faster than you can get here. So they had been in the area river rafting, and it was their wife that was like honking the horn saying, hey, let's go. It's time to go. And that was the horn honking that I had heard. So they grabbed a river raft, loaded me in that, and drug me up this hill, loaded me in the back of my own car. And this guy, Brandon, who was the Army Ranger, drove 120 miles an hour down this road that I went 15 miles an hour to get to this spot, and met paramedics at the gas station, and off to the hospital I went into surgery. Again, my pride and my ego kept me from wanting to see my family. And my angel of a sister and my entire family were in the waiting room and, waiting for me to get sewn up and fix the damage that I had caused. And I didn't want to see any family, so I told them I'm not seeing anyone. But while they waited there for hours, Brandon and Adam, the two guys who had saved my life, one of them's spouse was there, and then there was another gentleman with them. Anyway, they decided, they lived in Park City. They decided to go to Salt Lake to have dinner with their wives that night. And then while there, like, this guy just bled all over us. We don't know if he had any diseases. We better go to the hospital and get checked. Well, it turns out they drove me from Park City to Salt Lake to a hospital. And then Brandon and Adam and their spouses decided to go to the hospital to get checked, happened to be in the same waiting room as my family, had no idea that's where I was. And my brother-in-law overheard them talking about saving somebody in Park City and the story of that day. And turns around, he's like, did you guys just save someone in Park City? And they're like, yeah. So they got to meet my family the night of. And Adam was wearing this white shirt with a picture of Muhammad Ali on the front, where Muhammad Ali is standing over Sonny Liston, and Sonny Liston basically laid down in the first round and wouldn't get up and fight. And Muhammad Ali's, yelling at him, get up and fight, get up and fight. And that had been my motto for a few years at that point, was get up and fight, just to keep going. And so many things happened this day that I realized, okay, God exists. He wants me here. I have a purpose. There is more for me in my life. And so I got an opportunity to go to treatment and get sober. I didn't stay sober at that point. I got sober for about a year and a half, and then was like, no, I'm not an alcoholic. I could probably go drink. And then started drinking for about a year or so, and then decided that I needed to get help again, went back to treatment. And then after that treatment, I got married, and 2 months into my marriage, found out my wife was talking to an ex-boyfriend of hers, and I lost it. And I started drinking that night and went on a bender for a few months, and then again went back to treatment. Got sober. That was December 1st of 2018, and have been sober since. And I never thought that I would get back to that point of, the depression, the loneliness, the dark place that we as men can get into. Women get there too, but I don't know that it's, I guess I shouldn't compare because I don't know.
Sure.
But I never thought that I would get to that place if I was sober. I'm like, if I'm sober, then I won't have to deal with these depression issues. And that just wasn't the case. And I joined Watt July of 24. And by November, again, was in this dark place and started having these, awful thoughts of wanting to die, and literally driving down the road. And I'm like, well, I could, drive my car over into that semi. I'm like, well, then it's possible I could hurt this person. So I don't want to do that. Well, there's a cliff I could drive off. Like every moment of every day thinking how I can die. And I'm sober. Like, this isn't supposed to happen. I should not be having these thoughts and these feelings. And it turns out that you can feel like you're doing all the right things and still have these, thoughts pop up. And it's like, what are you going to do to get out of them? And we had our January Ludus in Bear Lake a year ago. So here it is, February 3rd. And it was the end of January of 2025. And I didn't want to go because I knew that if I went to this Ludus, that I would end up letting everyone know that I was struggling, and I feared feeling weak and vulnerable, but knew I needed to, but I didn't want to. And up until like the day of, I wasn't going to go. And I was made a car driver to drive guys to Bear Lake. So I had other guys that were relying on me to actually get there. And so I'm like, well, I have to go. So get to Bear Lake, and we do many masterminds during these Luduses. And at this specific one, I went up into the room, was like, I'm not going to the mastermind, because I knew guys would be able to see right through my bullshit and call me out and, make me sure that I was struggling. And I'm sitting up in the room, and finally I decided, you know what, just go downstairs and join. So I joined the group, and I think one person shared, then it goes to the next person, and they look over at me and like, I don't feel like it's my turn. It might've been you who said that. I don't remember. You were in that group that day.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't feel like it's my turn, and kind of just look at me. I think Jared needs to go. And I immediately just broke down and shared this awful, dark place that I was in. And instead of being met with judgment, or like, pick yourself up and get going. Like, what are you doing? Quit being a bitch,
Yeah.
You guys surrounded me in love. And I have a picture that is very fond of to this day. And of all of these men that were in this group that day, I don't know, there was 8 or 10 of us that just surrounded me, and I'm sobbing, and everyone just putting their hands and hugging me and loving me and showing me, how much they care. So meaningful, so powerful. And it's not like it pulled me out of the dark place that I was in immediately, but it let me know that I have men in my life that I can count on, that I can call on, that will be there for me when I am in those dark places to help pull me out. If nothing else, sometimes words don't even need to be spoken, but just the presence of someone and their arm around you being there was enough. And over the last year, I never imagined what would happen in my life. I never imagined what was possible and how incredible life could actually get. And had I followed through and actually ended my life, I wouldn't have the life I get today. I wouldn't have the ability to be here and share my story and hopefully reach out to other men who struggle as I struggled. About once a month, someone reaches out to me, whether via social media or text, because I'm very open about my story, and having the ability to be the type of man that someone can call on and say, hey, I'm struggling, is something that I admire about myself. And the ability to just show love and not judge someone for struggling, because we all do at some point. I don't know that I've met anyone that's like, no, I've never struggled with anything. No, my life is great.
They're lying.
They're lying if that's the truth. If they say that. The things that have happened today, I met the love of my life. I got married this year. My wife had 5 kids when we got married. I have a son. So my son still has a dad. I get to be a bonus dad to 5 other kids, and have just the time of my life. You were mentioning at the beginning before we started, that your girlfriend is who you're planning to marry is your best friend. And I just smile and I'm like, I have that. I know what that feels like. And I didn't have that in my last, any relationship that I've had. Never felt like they were my absolute best friend. And I wanted to do everything with them. You mentioned that she put hearts on your doorway or something this morning. Yeah. And this morning, my 14-year-old stepdaughter left her lunch at home. And so my wife teaches at the high school. And so she's like, I'm giving Chloe my lunch and I'll just eat when I get home. And I was like, the heck you are. And so I drove her lunch and a soda, get her Diet Dr. Pepper, get her all caffeinated and happy at school. And I sat down here and she sends me a big thank you text. Just grateful that I didn't have to do that. No, I got to. Yeah. I got to. Yeah. And there's things that I get to do today that when I'm in those dark places, it's easy to sink into that selfish mode and just worry about yourself. But the best way out of that is just to go love and serve someone else.
Absolutely. And I think it's such a blessing to be able to go through some of those hard times too, because we feel the lowest lows, but then like the highs are like it's so much better, I think. And I think that spectrum of people being able to feel that, like some people may not experience it to that extent because what it feels like to be at the lowest low that anybody could be at. But now you're experiencing one of the highest highs that anybody could ever be at.
And it's pretty incredible. I started kind of like my fitness journey and getting my body healthy, coming up on 3 years ago. And last summer, I'm sitting on the bed with my then fiance, and Kate looks at me and she's like, Jared, I need you to be healthy. And I was like, what are you talking about? I am. She's like, no, I need you to be healthy. And she starts crying. And I was like, I've lost like 60 or 70 pounds. Like I'm doing pretty well. She's like, no, you don't understand. I'm never going to find this again. I'll never have this again. And I'm not doing this ever again. I need you to be healthy because I want to grow old together. Mm. No one had ever said anything like that to me, where someone wants you so bad that they want you to be healthy so that you can live a long time because they want you around. I had never felt that type of love. And I was like, okay. So I started going to the gym, and I hadn't done that. I was just concentrating on losing weight, not going to the gym. And I guess it was about a month ago, I sent a kind of a progress photo to Jimmy and was like, dude, I've got veins in my biceps. I've never seen that before. And Jimmy replies back and says, has anyone had a better year than you? Congratulations. And it's true. I don't know that who has had a better year than me coming from where I was at just a year ago to my life today. And it's just, getting up in the morning and figuring out what it is that is going to help you bring joy and happiness and love and light into others' lives. If you can think about that, it comes back to you tenfold.
Yeah. It's been so cool to see you, like, knowing that, the group or like other people in your life, like gave you what they had when you needed it most. And now, like, just the gratitude and the like blessings that you felt from that, and the want to go out and to be able to help other people, or to be able to like be that shoulder for people to, cry on, or to like talk them through these hard times that they're going through. And just like seeing a recent Facebook post about like the toy drive that Jimmy held, and being able to like give to people, give back. It's been super inspiring to see. And on top of that, just like knowing that you understand people at a deeper level than sometimes that they understand themselves, and being able to just love them has been really, really inspiring.
Thank you. It's been a journey for sure. One I'm grateful for, like you mentioned, it's good to experience those lows so that you can also experience the highs. I don't wish anyone have to experience the lowest of lows like I have. And the reality is a lot of us do. Not everybody will have the thoughts of suicide and wanting to die, but I think it happens more often than even we'll admit to ourselves. And then at some point, someone will share, yeah, I've been there. I read yesterday of a friend of ours that was having those thoughts last week. I'm like, dude, I had no idea. I, was just at your house 2 weeks ago and had no idea that you were kind of in this place. And, sharing about it afterwards, after you get through it, is one thing. But, my hope is that he was able to open up and share with someone while he was going through it. So he didn't have to go through it alone.
Yeah.
And that's one of the best things about Watt for me is now I have these bonds and relationships with these so many men that literally if I am in one of those places, I could pick up my phone at any time. We call them our 3 a.m. friends.
Sure. Yeah.
And say, yo, I'm in need. Last year, even after I shared with the group that I was in a dark place and really struggling, it didn't pull me out of it. I was still struggling. And there was a day where one of the guys had called me earlier in the day. I didn't answer because I had a plan. I had a plan to end my life. And I didn't want to share with anyone. Called me earlier in the day, sent me a text a couple hours later, a text again a couple hours later, and I'm still not responding. And by that night, I don't know, 7, 8 o'clock, I'm getting calls and texts from several of the guys in the group. And then, I don't know, midnight, 2 of the guys broke into my house to come check on me, make sure I was okay, because I wasn't responding. How many people in our lives are that in tune to what you're going through that could and would do that? People say they would, but these men took action that day, knowing that I was not in a great place, and spread the word, shot up the flare guns. Everyone starts reaching out. Then middle of the night, I don't know, midnight, 12:30, 2 guys breaking in my house so they can come check on me and make sure I'm okay.
Yeah. How do you think you'd set up those people in your life? Because I believe it's the intuition to be able to check up on your friends like that they had to be able to get to the point of like, we need to go check up on Jared. And how do you think we got to that point?
I'd say for me, I showed up for them first. And, when I first joined Watt, when I said I jumped in with both feet, I did. I went to Las Vegas. John Getty lives in Vegas. He had gone through a breakup and was moving. And I just said, okay, I'm coming down. I'm going to help you move. And so I drove to Vegas and I helped him move. And we had a great weekend, went boating. We had a blast. But I barely knew the guy. This was a month after our first Ludus together. Right after that, I went to Arizona and I connected with the few guys in our group that were living in Arizona. I went up to Idaho, had dinner with another one of our guys in our group. I was traveling around and actively being there for other men, and texting, calling, making plans on weekends with our families, going to water parks. So just by showing up, and I was like, hey, if I'm doing this, I'm doing this, and I want to connect with these guys. So I was consistent in their lives. And I remember someone in our group was kind of frustrated that they felt like they weren't being invited to things. They didn't feel like they were the first call, and that I would get invited to things. And I was like, why do you think that is? I said, how many times have you called me and invited me to anything? How many times have you invited me over to your house? I said, you came to my house for World Series. You came to my house for dinner to hang out. I joined you and your family at the water park. But who initiated all of that?
Sure.
It was me. And so I had to take action and do things. But by me doing that, also opened the door for me to open up and share the good, the bad, the ugly in my life. And so when I stopped being consistent and I stopped being the one that, reaching out and texting or sending my daily gratitude or whatever the case may be, it was a red flag to everyone. And they realized, this isn't normal. So it was actions that I took first that made it known to several people the type of person that I was. And when I stopped doing those things is when they realized that they needed to take action.
Yeah. So you would invite people to you have to give before you can get
100%.
Tenfold.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on top of that, being able to you have to be there for people. You have to give. You have to put yourself out there if that's what you want in return. What about the guys that don't want that, want to go out? What if they want to be homebodies? How do they set something up like that?
That's interesting. I don't know. For me, it was, I have a lot of love to give. And I think that's the case for most people, but they don't know how to give it. And, it's finding just simple, easy things you can do to let someone know that you care. Because we all care.
Yeah.
And, I get texts often from Dan Dunn checking on me. At least I'd say once or twice a week, at least. And Dan reaches out, hey man, you ready for a big week? How's work? How's family life? Just whatever the case may be. And he's that type of guy. And if all of a sudden that stopped, I'd know, something's wrong. I better reach out to Dan.
Yeah.
What's going on in Dan's world that I'm not hearing from him anymore. So, the ones that struggle to do that or make excuses of why they can't, I think will always struggle until they decide to make a change. I think it's a decision that you need to make. I know I'm my happiest when I am in the service of others. And I've known that since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I am my happiest when I am serving other people. So, and for me, service is love. And so if I find an easy way to serve someone, something as simple as, dropping off a soda to them, to my wife specifically this morning, that's an easy way to show her that I love her and that I care. And she feels it. So, for your friends, same thing. One of our friends in our group, he used to stop by often and bring me a soda or bring me a candy bar or whatever, just to say hi.
Yeah.
He'd just swing in. He would bring my son donuts, and because he knows my 6-year-old loves donuts, and so he would stop in every other weekend that I have my son and bring Axel a donut. And a couple of days ago, I texted him, I'm like, hey, man, I miss those days. I miss the days you used to swing by and bring Axel donuts. And he's like, I need to get back to that. I need to do that. But yeah, that brought me joy. Like the donut wasn't even for me. It was for Axel.
Yeah.
But Axel would get so excited, that he got to see his friend and that I got to see my friend. So it's just, simple things. And it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. But if you can get out there and show someone else that you love them, you'll be surprised at how many people reach back out and you get that in return so much more.
I've been doing a little bit of study on purpose lately, purpose of life or, purpose of why we're here and things like that. And I think one of the comforting things that I've been learning about while doing this is that one, you don't have to have a purpose in life. And two, one of the things that has been prominent is that like the purpose of life is to just get closer to God, and that's it. And I think that's been true for my life. And if I can simple it down to just that, we could also look at like, what does, God do? He just gives us love. Right. And so, I'm curious because of your background in the church, like growing up in it, and where you stand now, on like, if those things you still like, where your relationship stands with God after going through these things and then coming out on the other side of them.
Yeah. So when it comes to, my religious beliefs, I don't consider myself, an active LDS member. In fact, years ago, I had my name removed from the records of the church.
Sure.
They had done something that I didn't think was Christ-like. They've since reversed that policy. But it just said something inside of me of like, if Christ was here today, would he do that? Mm-hmm. And my answer was no. And so I was like, okay, I'm done with the church. And then fast forward a few years, I actually got rebaptized in 2019. I just had this burning feeling, Jared, like, you need to get baptized. Jared, you need to get baptized. So I got baptized again. I never, went fully back into the church or, got the priesthood restored or anything like that. But
Sure.
I still struggle with a lot of things when it comes to the church because my relationship with God is separate from the church.
Okay.
I get my closeness to God out in nature. It's not in a building. And that's just me personally. And my personal belief is, if someone, whatever it is that helps you want to do good and be good and love and serve other people, then go do that.
Absolutely.
My aunt is Jewish. My mom and my grandpa are Lutheran. My grandfather was a preacher for the Church of Christ. My dad grew up Baptist, and then after his mom died, his dad married someone in the Church of Christ, became a preacher, and then proceeded to tell my dad that his mom went to hell because she was a Baptist and not Church of Christ. So, religion for me is like whatever it is that helps you feel closer to God and want to love and serve other people, then go do that. If it's Judaism, Buddhism, the LDS faith or Baptist, whatever it is, for me, it's actually in nature.
Yeah.
That's where I feel my closeness. That's where I, get grounded. And sitting in a building, my wife is, I wouldn't say active, but we go for the kids a couple times a month.
Sure.
We're not super active, but we'll go a couple times a month. And I go and I just sit there like, I don't know what I'm doing here other than I'm supporting the kids because they wanted to go. And that's enough for me. That's enough for me. And like I said, just loving and serving other people, that makes me feel close to God.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, so many people are in so many different like religions or areas, and like they feel closer to God in certain ways, like whether it's nature or through, some people it's like following the covenant path to a T is like how they feel closest to Christ, or and some people aren't like that. And I think it's interesting, like in my studies of the purpose, like that one of the answers that came up is like the purpose is to just get closer to God. And I feel like maybe because of that is the closer we feel to God, the closer we feel to like a higher emotional state, whether it's in nature, in the building or something like that. And so it's just been an interesting study for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a scripture that says, men are that they might have joy. So when I think of purpose, men are that they might have joy. It doesn't say they will have joy.
Yeah.
It might.
Yeah.
So there is going to be times in our life where we have joy and then times when we don't. But what are the things that bring me joy? For me, spending time with my wife brings me so much joy. Being able to cuddle up with one of my kids on the couch, watching Survivor, got on this Survivor kick, and I went back and started like season 1. And,
one of the guys in the group was in Survivor, wasn't he?
Yeah. I don't know. And in group 7, I think
I think so.
He's on season 35 or 38 or something like
there's that many seasons?
They're about to have season number 50.
Holy.
But I'd never watched it before. And, but I just kind of was like, oh, Survivor, that might be fun. So I started on season 49 and then loved it. And so then I started going back and watching all of them. And it's my 8-year-old stepdaughter. She came home from school, cuddled up next to me, and was like, I love coming home from school and just being able to watch Survivor with you. Like, she just enjoys it. And I don't think she cares anything about the show. It's just some silly little thing that she and I have together where we get to spend a little time watching a silly show. And like I said, things don't have to be elaborate or big, but that brings me joy. My son, I'm taking him back to his mom. He lives a few hours away, so we meet halfway, and he fell asleep in the car ride as soon as I hit the freeway, and then literally woke up as I'm pulling into the gas station. And the first words out of his mouth were, "Daddy, I love you." Like, oh man, if that doesn't hit you, that's joy. That's joy. And so doing things on the daily that can bring you joy, find those things and do them. And, being part of WAT has taught me and reminded me the things that bring me joy in my life. And what brings me joy is loving and serving other people. And if I can find ways to do that, man, I'm going to have a lot of joy.
I love it. Jared, last question, if you were to go back to your 20-year-old self and just leave him with one phrase, what would you tell him?
Back to my 20-year-old self, I would have to say, don't forget what brings you joy. And that is loving and serving other people.
Jared Hayes, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, brother.
Thanks for having me, Chance.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you, brother.
For sure.